Good evening, everyone. Let's look at the mock 17 of verbal ability paper. And this paper was relatively easier than the previous papers, where the first, okay, wait a minute, yes, where the first three passages, okay, were very simple, and almost two passages had specific detailed questions. The last passage, however, had inference-based questions, and that was a little tougher to get through. But if you have done enough reading in your literature, art, and history kind of genres, then it must be not that difficult for you. So three passages completely is a good goal for this paper. And apart from that, out of the eight verbal ability questions, six of the verbal ability questions were nice. Uh, Especially in the para jumbles. This time the para jumbles were pretty straightforward. So a good six questions could have been attempted, right? So having said that, we come up with 18 questions as a very good attempt ratio in this particular paper out of the 26 questions. And somewhere around 15 to 18 questions is what is desirable, right? So as long as you have made an attempt of 15 questions or 17 to 18 questions with at least 15 corrects, then that is a good target that we can set for ourselves. Now, without any further ado, let's actually go into the first passage. Excuse me. So in this passage, we are actually looking at what Rene Descartes is talking about, the kind of questioning we need to have, and whether our senses are actually betraying us, or our senses really the right way to interpret the information that's coming from the environment, right? And he's also talking about how cynical this particular person, Rene Descartes, was, right? Okay, so let's go to the first question. According to the passage, which are the following problems did Descartes focus on in the meditations of first philosophy? Now, I've highlighted the answer over here. Very clearly, this particular question is a specific detail type question, right? And in this specific detail type question, we can see that this is where the answer comes from. Yes. So for us, the answer will be nothing but A. Okay. Yes. So let's move on. The second question is, why does the author feel that Descartes' claim was unjustified and unreasonable? Again, the moment you see double quotes anywhere in the question, please remember this could have been taken from the passage, and hence it will become a specific detail type question, right? So if you're looking at this particular unjustified and unreasonable, we can see that this can be found from the second paragraph of the passage. Yes, wherein we are talking about the Descartes raised roughly 400 years ago has puzzled me. What that's the question about? How do you doubt everything that you perceive through your sense organs? Correct? Yes. So why do we claim this as unjustified and unreasonable? Because all human perceptions are true, right? So our answer will be D. If we look at the next question, the author says the following about inner borders, except. Again, if you're looking at inner borders, we can clearly see that inner borders comes from this part of our passage. Yes, when visualization techniques, psychological training, and gestalt therapy classes that have gained tremendous popularity in the past 20-25 years teaches all to control what we think, positive thinking, and to demolish those inner borders of conscience that tell us all our dreams are impossible to achieve. So what does that mean? It means to say that we have to start thinking about our dreams. We have to start thinking about all the things that we can achieve, our skills and all, right? So this is basically they suggest that the dreams are impossible to achieve is I think it's given over here, right? So he says which of the following except. So dreams are impossible to achieve is over here, which is this part. They make us feel that our skill set is limited is again over here, right? They make us focus on the paucity. Paucity is nothing but shortage, right? So paucity is nothing but shortage. So and opportunities are few. So all these three we can see. The one that we cannot see is D. So the answer is going to be D. Now, as far as the last question is concerned, he talks about what's the crux of the passage. When we're talking about the crux of the passage, we very, very clearly know that it's talking about the main idea of the passage. Yes, so the main idea of the passage is nothing but, I think amongst these four options, the one that best suits is A. It's against human nature to doubt the accuracy of our senses. Again, we're going to take that obviously from the overall passage, but specifically if we are looking at it, the first time the idea was introduced is in the second paragraph. All right. Yeah. Right. So let's go to the next passage. Yeah. Now, in this passage, we're again talking about, how the non-academic staff is actually bearing the brunt of the academic staff's how do we say, bad mood for that matter, and too much stress that's on the academic staff, how they are displacing that stress and all the negativity in terms of behavior onto the students. They're also showing us that there are some practices which are done by the academic staff which should not be encouraged, right? Okay. So the passage as a whole is primarily concerned with discussing which of the following. Now, you can see that I've already highlighted the last line over here. So we know very, very clearly that we usually get our main idea of the passage either from the first part of the paragraph or the last part of the passage, right? And here we are getting it from the last part of the passage because he starts with something of an example, right? So the idea is not starting over here. He's giving us an example. So in these kind of structures, it's usually the last part of the passage that has the main idea. Now over here, the main crux of the passage is basically about the shortcomings in the postgraduate research model. Okay. Now the second question is the author of the passage is most likely to support which of the following statements. Yes. Now when we see supporting which of the following statements, we can clearly understand that one of the statements should align with the main idea, and we just saw the main idea, right? So the statement A, the job of non-academic staff, although relaxing, can be mentally and emotionally taxing, right? Aligns with the kind of problems that are faced by postgraduate researchers because of the university academic staff, right? So over here, if you look at the second paragraph, I have also isolated and highlighted the particular lines which give us this particular answer. So the answer is going to be A. Third question says the author quotes the example of collapsed students in order to. Now let's first understand that this is a specific detail type question. And let's go to the place where the author is actually trying to quote about this particular student. Yes. So when this kind of comparison is done, over here in this line, you can see just as I had seen previously, the student had fainted as a result of stress, anxiety, and fatigue, right? So basically, he's trying to tell us the extent or the enormity of anxiety and stress PhD students face in the universities. So again, answer should be A, right? Now, last question over here is what does the author say about the professor's attitude towards non-academic staff? Now, clearly, we can get this answer from this particular paragraph over here. Yes, where he's talking about, unfortunately, the ones most likely to be in the receiving end are the PhD students and all these guys, postdoctoral researchers, and non-academic staff. Uh, sorry, the non-academic staff who are often on short employment contracts, right? So professors make them. So about who is this them? The them over here is non-academic staff, right? So professors make them the target of their anger and frustration, knowing that they are helpless. Why are they helpless? Because they are in very tenuous positions and they have very little recourse. Okay, so that is a part where they are helpless. So the right answer should be D. Yes. So this particular passage is another masterpiece. Again, pretty simple to understand. It's not very hard to understand. It basically talks about women in business and how there are certain organizations which are focused only on helping women in business because uh, uh, according to a certain researchers and another set of organizations, women in business face a bigger challenge than men in business, especially in terms of the technicality, legality, and access to different financing and crowdfunding sources. Okay, so if we go to the first question, it talks about the main idea of the passage. Now, obviously, the main idea of the passage over here is that women should be given something that's safe and secure when they're trying to establish their ventures, right? So, obviously, D will be the correct answer for us. Just give me one moment. Right. So, if we are going to the next question, all of the following statements may be considered valid inferences from the passage, except. So basically, he's asking us which one of these following is not, valid inference that we can draw. Now, I have already highlighted the part of the passage which will help us in answering this particular question. If you look carefully at this particular part of the passage, it talks about what do I say? It talks about how British women, okay, are okay. If you just go through this exact part. Yes, female entrepreneurship in Britain is growing. Furthermore, research from Britain Chamber of Commerce has suggested women are getting better at spotting gaps in the market, right? Now, if we are looking at the next particular paragraph as well, although I've not marked it, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, even if we are looking at the next paragraph as well, undoubtedly, British women have the creativity and drive. So why are those in US twice as likely to be entrepreneurially active? So here the idea is that yes, British women have the creativity and drive. Correct. So if we are looking at option C, British women lack government aid and support despite being more creative than women in America. Now, can we actually take this to be one of the valid inferences directly? Is the part that we should focus on, which shouldn't be taken as such, right? Why? Because they are not talking about government at all. We are talking about how they are supported by the VCs. Yes, but here we are talking about the government aid. Okay, so we cannot consider this. That small part will make our answer a partial scope choice. So please be keen about this, right? Okay. So if we move on to the next question, how does the author of the passage highlight Ausi's idea of challenges faced by women entrepreneurs? Now, obviously, Ausi's idea of challenges faced by women entrepreneurs can be found over here, right? Women have different challenges to men: access to capital, knowing how to promote ourselves, writing business plans. Now, this, if we are taking this to be a specific detailed question, very clearly, answer is A. Yeah. All right. So I think this is another question in the same bunch. Yes. Which of the following most corresponds to the author's idea of equal opportunities? Again, we can see that author's idea of equal opportunity comes from here, where we are talking about Harvard study comparing men and women who are seeking capital, right? So we can clearly see that there is some kind of gender bias, there's some kind of discrimination. The female counterparts who are trying to get into business aren't being asked the same questions as the men. For men, we are talking about promotions and all, whereas for women, we are talking about how will they get us out of losses, right? So the right answer over here would be B, right? So there should not be any gender bias or discrimination when women want to seek fund or start ventures. That means there should not be different questions for men and woman, right? Okay. So yes, now the last paragraph, and definitely a paragraph that is kind of challenging to interpret and well expand, to be honest. Yes, so he's talking about how classicism impacts the Greek and Roman architecture altogether, and how there is a revival of style during the Renaissance period in terms of different architectural things, in terms of different architectural cultures, and different what do you say? Um, Not monuments per se, but different entities, like the broad walk of Disney World or the Eton College in Berkshire. So he's also gotten a few examples to elaborate his point. Yes. Now, if you look at this particular question, just as painters showed ancient heroes and emperors, now the moment we see something in double quote, again, the first thing we should do is understand it's a specific detail type question, find out where that is, and then go towards there. Yes. So why or what is the question about? The author uses the example of painters in this line for which of the following purposes. So basically, just as painters showed ancient heroes and emperors dressed in fashions of their own day and place, so it would seem the architectural world had no sense of anachronism or stylistic development. So this word anachronism means out of context in time wise. Okay. So why would this person be saying about this? To understand or to help us understand what kind of architecture was there and what kind of architecture was revived. Okay. But how are we not able to look at the architecture that was revived in the same light as what it was? So the options that falls closest to the meaning that we've just discussed is option C. Right. Now, what does the author mean by fons et origo? Now, again, let's see where this fons et origo is. The fons et origo is exactly, I think, over here in the second paragraph, right? Now, what is this fons et origo even? So, if you're looking at it, since this represents revival, a word should be said on the subject at the outset. Revivals are constant, indeed inevitable theme of classical architecture at the point of being almost a defining feature. But even Greek architecture later regarded as the fons et origo of the classical system. So basically, I can understand that this was a classical system which evolved out of ancient tradition and now it is lost, right? So very simply, the fons et origo is nothing but the classical system of architecture which evolved from Greek architecture. Yes, so our answer should be C. Right. So the next question is, which of the following statements is the author of the passage most likely to agree with? Now, clearly out of these four statements, if you look at it, statement A is the one that the author is most likely to agree with because of first paragraph. Okay. Now, when we are talking about the flow of classicism has quickened, the banks are beginning to brim. Yes. What does this mean for us? Now, obviously, first things first, we need to understand what is the meaning of brim. So, brim is nothing but coming to the edge, projecting at the edge. Okay. So, it's almost coming to an end done at. Yeah. Now, if you're looking at the first paragraph, classicism, broad river that runs through Western architecture for 2.5 millennia, a generation ago, it seemed that stream had reduced to a trickle. And yet, now, quite in full speed, the river has recaptured a degree of rigor, right? That means it has quickened, it has like right now, and yet now in full speed, right? So initially we thought that it's not working, yeah. But now what happened? It's in full speed and it is capturing back the rigor. Yes, so the flow of classicism has quickened, it's increased. Yes, and the banks are beginning to bring. That means it's coming to an end. It's coming to the edge. None of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except. That means which is the only statement that the author is going to agree with. Yes. Now I've marked this particular paragraph for our reference. Okay. So if you look at the paragraph that I marked, you can clearly understand that there have been a few architects who, how do I put this? Okay. So there have been a few architects who are very keen about reviving things. Okay. Now, why are they keen about reviving things? Because Renaissance inspired classicists and morally convinced Scots in the 19th century, after the age of innocence was truly over. Yes. What is this age of innocence? The age of innocence was where people built a lot of things like Palladio for Inigo Jones and Lord Burlington. So this Inigo Jones and Lord Burlington were the guys who built Palladio, the palace of Emperor of Deccan in Croatia, uh, and at Pompeii for Robert Adams. So at these different places, these guys built something that stayed. Okay, that had a certain aesthetic appeal. Okay, so we can clearly see that we all, I mean, at least the author agrees that there was some kind of a flair, there was some kind of a style, okay, that was there in the buildings that were constructed during Renaissance. Okay, yes. So with that, we come to an end of all the reading comprehension questions. Let's quickly go into the verbal ability questions as well. Now, in verbal ability, this first question is actually a para summary. Yes, I've highlighted the important ideas, leaving out the other parts from here. Now, if you look at this particular passage carefully, we can see that sustaining a social movement is difficult. Yes. And why is this difficult? Because the socio-economically disenfranchised backgrounds, that means the people or the entities which are making up this social movement come from different backgrounds, then and they do not believe in one common thing, then it gets a little harder. Yes. But what happens? You have to provide the individual with what instinctive justification. That means immediately they should believe in something and they should carry that belief forward. Yes. Now this happens by using anger. Okay, so anger is actually a one good mediator in this case. Now all of these ideas are clearly portrayed in option C, which is why our correct answer will be option C. Okay. Now clearly over here, the first statement and the third statement are not going to be the opening statement. Yes, only 2 and 4 can be opening statements because obviously you're not going to start something with because or but. Yes, so various findings may seem to coalesce on the idea that multitasking is bad and should be avoided at all costs. Now, what does this mean? What does coalesce mean? Coalesce means come together. That means a lot of people have done research and they all agree that multitasking should be avoided at all costs. Putting your phone in focus or airplane mode may seem like good advice, but often that simply isn't practical due to the need to be available to others. Now, why are we talking about these phones being in airplane mode and all? Because of multitasking. No, that means we need to be present for others. We need to do our own work. That is only what's multitasking, right? So clearly, 4 is not going to be the first statement. It's going to start with 2. Okay. Now, once we start with 2, yes, immediately we can jump into 3, where we are talking about, but actually, I believe that people cannot avoid multitasking, neither or nor should they necessarily try to. So, obviously, here we are seeing the contradictory thing. Yes, here multitasking is bad, but you cannot avoid it. Yes. Now, why is this going on like that? Is over here. So, it is going to be 2, 3, 1, and obviously, 4 is going to be the ending statement. Yes. Okay. Now, this particular question is again going to be a sorry, it's an odd man out. Yes. Yeah. Now, if we are looking at these 5 statements, very specifically speaking, here we can clearly see that 4 statements are talking about different parts of the brain and what they are going to do. Yes, we are talking about the left hemisphere, right hemisphere, and all that. Only third statement is talking about brain difference in boys and girls. Yes. So clearly, third statement is our odd man out. Now, the next question, wherein we are giving four alternative summaries, is a para summaries question. Now, this question is again pretty easy because in the top of the thing, he's giving us examples, not ideas. He's giving us instances, not even examples. We can't call these examples, to be honest. He's giving us instances about how things are going on. And it's at the end that the idea really starts trickling down. Okay, he further claims that defining well-being only in terms of functioning is insufficient because well-being includes freedom. Okay, so he's basically trying to tell us what well-being should consist of. Now, if we are looking at it carefully, uh, B option, according to Saint's capability approach, yes, well-being should be understood by considering all possible combinations is more efficient. Yes, so our answer will be B. Now, some people have already texted me about why it's not C, so let me just answer it. C is a partial scope choice. Okay, C is a partial scope choice, and I'm not sure who that person. Two, three people texted me on WhatsApp. Okay, yeah. So C is a partial scope choice, and when you're looking at D, according to Saint's capability approach, well-being should be understood by considering the possible functionings of the personality characteristic. Okay, so when you are talking about the possible functionings versus all possible combinations, a few of you have told me that, sir, all should be extreme, right? But please try to remember again and again. I'm trying to tell this to you in every single mock. When you are looking at your passage and the passage has all, you are not going to consider all as an extreme answer. Only when the passage does not have all and you are getting an answer in terms of all, then that's going to be an extreme answer. Okay? Yeah. So let's go to the next question. This question is again a para jumble. Now, over here, if we are seeing these four statements, except for two, the other statements can be taken as a starting just by looking at the first part of it. But on a closer approximation, we can see one thing. Here, when we have decided that two is not the starting, can we see if there's any sentence which can form a mandatory pair with it? So to say such an approach to social science can only have heuristic use as a matter at hand are in not agency-free molecules, but rather things of cultural significance. Now, if you look at this particular thing, we know that it's coming from science moving towards culture. Yes. So in this case, can I say that obviously 3, which talks about science, would precede 2, which follows, and 4 should follow 2, since this is talking about culture. So this kind of a triad I have formed. Now all I need to check is, does one come here or one comes at the end? Now, one says all of the analysis that the human mind is capable of consists in an assumption that only finite portion of reality is worthy of being known, right? So again, if you're looking at the third one, we are talking about creation of worthiness, criterion of worthiness. Yeah. So naturally, even 3 is following 1, this will all make sense to us. So 1 will not be at the end, 1 will be at the beginning. Right. So the next question is a para summary again. Now, in this particular para summary, we can clearly see how freelancing, okay, has turned into a 9 to 5 gig. In fact, we have kind of seen the same part a little earlier. Yes. So to be very, very honest, the ideas that we are getting out of this is that why are people choosing freelancing model, right? So the whole passage kind of talks about why people are choosing freelance model. Now, that explanation is very clearly given in A option. Yes. So our answer should be A. To move forward, 5 sentences related to a topic are given below, 4 of them. So it's a jumble type of question. Oh, sorry, 5 sentences, no? So this is going to be a para summary type of question. Yes. Now let's look at these 5 sentences. I don't remember this question. Yes. This about the distance learning and all that. Okay. So now if you look at this question very carefully, you are looking at statement one saying which kind of sectors or which kind of people are being enabled. The second statement talks about it's come a long way as a medium. Third statement, for this reason, skeptical opinion about prospects of distance learning has taken a bright turn. And fourth one, this is a great option for the working people. Okay. So firstly, if we are looking at the you know para jumble approach, because clearly we cannot distinguish between these 5 statements on the basis of similarity. So if we go to the para jumble approach, we can see that this is a great option for the working people. We don't know what the this is. Yes. For this reason, a skeptical opinion about the prospects of distance learning courses has taken a bright turn. Also, you don't know what that this is. So obviously 3 and 4 are not going to be the first sentence. What's going to be the first sentence? We can see that the first sentence will be 2. Okay. The distance learning program has come a long way as a medium of providing education to the professionals as well as others who could not get this chance, who could not get chances to avail regular education. Okay. This is a great option for the working people who cannot think about quitting jobs in lieu of studying further. So naturally 2, 4. Yes. For this reason. So 3 and then 1. So 2, 4, 3, 1 will be your para jumble and 5 will be the odd man out. Okay. All right. So I think this is the last question. This is a para jumble question where we are talking about security threats and how, uh, failure of balancing security. Okay. Let's just think about this a little calmly. If we are looking at statement 1, security threats as well as social issues have led states to cooperate with each other in regard to tightening up broader border controls, applying regulations and all that, and fines and everything. Now, why are they doing all this? That's my first question. Yeah. Now, that question will only get answered if we understand that there's this migration policy. Okay. That's a kind of a pain for the government. That's kind of not very clear to the government. Yes. And since it's not very clear to the government, it's not able to get the right results, we can say. Yes. So if we are thinking of a narrative like that, then obviously the 4 statement would be our first opening statement. The balance between a robust and acceptable migration policy against the state's internal security is a constant dilemma for governments. That means, how do we get a migration policy when the states are so concerned about their own security? Yes. Now, failure to get this balance. Which balance? The balance between the robust and, sorry, I'll just erase this in. Okay. So, yes, so the balance between the robust and acceptable migration policy is again being talked over here in the second statement. So I know now that 4 and 2 are a mandatory pay. The only question is it 3-1 or 1-3? Yes. Now in 3, you see that various states geographically unfortunately placed receive inequitable amounts of irregular migrants, a large proportion of whom seek asylum. Now, once we know that migrants are here, then we can talk about all the kind of policies that they should be controlling, no? Yes, like stricter visa application, stricter restrictions, fines and all that. So naturally our pace will be 4-2 and 3-1. Now since 3 is not the first statement, it will be 4-2-3-1. Okay. All right. So that's all for mock 17. I hope you guys have done well. I'll see you in the class. Thank you.